Steve Irwin has you pinned down in a headlock. What cool facts does he tell the audience about you and your habitat? I don't care. He calls me a beaut and I really needed to hear it. You're a beaut, mate. Now looky here. Notice how he seems almost entirely apathetic to my attack. That's because he spends almost every waking moment pretending not to be bothered by the current situation he is in, despite the fact that he is incredibly irritated. To him, this is just another Monday morning staff meeting. He is truly a gorgeous example of mental endurance. That's the spirit. This little fella looks upset, but he actually craves physical contact. Edit. Lot of you weirdos are into thumbs and buttholes. I was gonna say, knowing Steve, he would say a lot of nice things and I would just start crying. Oh, this one's a beauty. Amazing. Look at those tears. Isn't he a beauty? You're alright. Fella. You're alright. This guy is out looking for a Sheila, but he isn't having much luck. He's coming in late to the party. Apostrophe. I laughed way harder at that last bit than I probably should have. At least you aren't the one thinking it might not be so bad to be pinned down by Steve Irwin. Oh, he's angry. Calm down, big fella. Ain't gonna hurt ya. Yeah. There we go. See, he likes when I give his noggin scritches like this. Yeah. These guys like to get all big and blustery, especially in front of a keyboard. They'll be real mean to each other, but they're good folk though. Just gotta let them know ya care about them. Everyone acting like Steve ever said something bad about the animals. That's not a thing. Crikey. This little Ranger is quite the sneaky little one. This particular type of animal can hide in a dark room all day and never even see the sunshine. She will do as much as she can to avoid others of her kind. Edit. I don't remember what he called gingers, so I fixed it. Thank you for correcting me, fellow redditors. Man, are all gingers the same? Same. It's the soul that makes the sun feel good. So probably. This air is a common member of his species. And as you can see, has got a fairly advanced case of fur loss, especially concentrated air at the top of his head. Many males you find in the wild with this condition will try to compensate by growing the fur around their faces. And this fella is no different. This one looks like he spends his days being poked and nipped at by his wee ones. Note the characteristic paunchy belly and the general lack of muscle tone. This fella can spend up to 12 hours a day grazing and trying to find a nice spot to curl up for some shooty. Edit. Apparently I've accidentally re-imaged Steve Irwin as a 19th century Cockney bootblack, but I'm leaving it. The first half of this hits too close to home. Just wait till you start experiencing the second part. I write curled up on the floor next to my 2-year-old's bed at 3 in the morning. She's ill and require constant soothing. No, we don't know if it's corona. My wife is in our bedroom with a squealing 3-week-old. I fell asleep during a lecture today. Not one I sat as a student. A lecture I was giving. Be very careful, mates. We have to show dominance. If we show any affection towards this creature, he'll get attached to us and never leave us alone. Truly one of the most terrifying beasts in North America. When I was a kid, my parents were about to get divorced, so I spent my time hiding. One day, I was so desperate for some human contact that I sat in a busy place on the playground and looked sad, hoping someone would ask if I was okay. I did something similar that I can't even bring myself to fully explain. I don't think I really recognized how lonely I was. This little bugger simulates reproduction up to 5 times a day, almost exclusively without a mate. Then I imagine he would shove a Dorito in my mouth and chuck me back into my bedroom. Steve. In a barely audible whisper as he gets low to the ground, the u/squealiness is an endangered fella. Meaning there aren't many of him left, and he most likely won't find a mate. Now if you watch air, he's trying to attract a Sheila. 5 minutes of silence as Squealiness stares at his screen before typing sub to the OnlyFans girl he subbed to, followed by more dead silence. Better luck next time. Little fella, if you see one of these in the wild, it's crucial you give them the space they need, as many of them can be highly poisonous. Crikey. This animal lives in a dilapidated bachelor pad and is capable of eating his weight in pudding over a weekend. Edit. Thanks for the gold and the little angel thingy. Awesome question. This unusually large example of his species is known to consume enormous quantities of cheese in one sitting. He is a very stealthy creature, with the ability to sit in one spot at a computer for up to 8 hours at a time. Edit. This number has been drastically reduced since the introduction of mate and offspring into the nest. Oh, this fine specimen was a hard one to catch. Now, let's look at her. As you can see, changes make her stressed and anxious, thus more aggressive. If provoked, she'll attack on sight. She has the appetite of a great white. She's an omnivore, but eats meat more willingly. One off thing about her diet is that she loves broccolis. She eats anything that's prepared with them. Apostrophe. This big guy is quite greasy due to his natural habitat of an engine bay. I believe he is extremely angry due to the loss of all his 10mm sockets. r/userna checks out. We have an indigenous person to the Americas out of his reconstructed habitat. They were contained to a small portion of land only for this bugger to free himself from such limited space and find himself tangled in debt. See, this is why you take physical exercise seriously, kids. If you act like him and sit in front of a computer all day, it's really easy to pull a sneaky one in ya. Steve picks you /Cilia009 up from his hind legs as he thrashes about before giving up. Steve, now isn't this a beauty? Just look at the stretch marks on this big fella. Now this is what we call a redditor, and despite their size they are not particularly dangerous. See? Steve begins stroking Cilia009's head, mesmerizing him into a calm, accepting state. While not common out in the wilds, these fellas like to stay in their little burrows where it's safe. Have to say he's more scared of you than you are of him. Cilia009 just sort of flops, limp on the ground, staring ahead and licking his lips. The redditor can grow to 3 times the size of a human. Truly remarkable, as it's always preparing to hibernate. This is why so many people think they are dangerous, is they'll catch them digging through their trash trying to find something to eat. But really all this fella wants is a little love. Steve knows redditors like head pats. Oh, look at this fella. He's of the hairless variety, rare and silky smooth to the touch. He actually likes when you rub his head. Look at his leg going. Fascinating. This creature diet consists of almost all caffeinated beverages. And would you give a whiff of the stench coming from his bathroom? It seems this little creature eats so little fiber that its shits come out as an earthy, putrid gaseous substance. Wow. Get a load of this Sheila. I can imagine this one spending all of her free time sleeping in her little hidey hole, only coming out 5 times a week to spend hours at a place where she probably regrets being at in the first place. And she'll do this most weeks of her life all the way up until she dies. This one's pretty big for a female too. Bigger than most average males actually. Don't think that gives her any luck during the mating season. Laughs in Australian. But she'll find a fella who loves every bit of her. Just you watch. I'm sitting in my chair looking at Reddit on my laptop. I've had a few beers, smoked a bowl and am relaxing. Steve jumps out from behind the chair, tackles me and gets me in a headlock. Steve, easy, fella. Easy, there Matteam. What the duck do to Steve? Looking at camera, that isn't there and struggling, or what? Look at him. He's nervous. But that's alright, you're alright. Fella Steve, this here is a common specimen. You can tell by his surroundings that he's given up on life and is just passing time until his eventual death, no longer struggling. Because who cares, Steve? Notice how he has given up struggling. Listen to that. Steve puts his ear to my mouth dramatically. That is the wheezing of a man who hasn't done any activity in ages. Notice his surroundings. Empty beer cans, crumbs on the chair, a bottle of lotion, and crumpled up tissues. I think I have found his nest. Me wife walks out of the bedroom to see Steve on top of me in the living room. Steve, AWW, look at that. There's his mate. This is a middle-aged housewife who looks to be giving up a bit herself. Notice the frown lines and her faded nightgown. We fur. Duck you. Asshole. Steve, AWW, you're alright. Steve turns his attention back to the camera. That isn't there, Steve. Now each of these specimens is a little different, but judging by the items in his nest and his mate, We can tell that he hasn't had his yearly loveless sex in quite a while and is probably suffering from mild undiagnosed depression. I'm calling the cops. Steve, crikey, I seem to have upset his mate. So I should probably release him into the wild before I get into too much trouble out here in the bush. Wife. Yeah, it's some Australian guy in cargo shorts and he's beating up my husband. Steve, you're alright. You're alright. Ain't your wife? Yeah. He's talking to a wall, like there's someone there. No, I don't know. Yes. Thank you. Please hurry. Steve picks me up and guides me back to my chair. Steve, I know I have seen these specimens many times in my career, but they always amaze me. Look how he sits there beautifully while he searches the internet for increasingly disturbing porn. Can't blame him. He's just trying to feel something. Anything really. I'm always in awe how resilient these specimens are. My wife sobs in the corner holding her phone as I just stare at Steve. Irwin. Steve, what a beauty. Steve leaves the house, backing away slowly. Wife and I are just left wondering what the duck happened. I'm really upset that most of these comments boil down to I'm a fat, lazy incel that just sits at my computer all day. Steve would love each and every one of you, and he'd have lots of interesting stuff to say about you, even if you are a fat, lazy incel. Much more along the lines of jumping down on the couch next to you, or throwing you in a back hug. Have to let the camera see your pretty face. Look at this white boat. This shiny coat means she's been jetting good brushes lately. Good girl. Eating well. Aren't ya? Looks like she was here sunning herself. This particular species is known to lack vitamin D, so we're just gonna to put her right back in her lawn chair to keep warm. Crikey, what a find. Amazing. This lazy bastard hasn't done laundry in weeks, or checked his email. This bloke is in a completely relaxed state, not a care in the world. Or crikey, the female is home, and he forgot to pick up the groceries. In for it now. Steve and the camera crew quickly scamper to a corner. In a legs out arms out wide stance. Steve, looks like these two are about to have a bit of a tumble. Might wanna give them some space. Mrs. U/30_Helens_agree begins hissing madly. Teeth bared as she claws at his face. Mr. Thirsty Helen bounce hobbles a few meters away. Head low. Nor look at the size of that Sheila. If Yassi are in the wild, it's best to give the girl plenty of space, as she can rip ya to shreds. Mr. 30 Helen rolls onto his back, submissively. Yassi it's there that the female primarily brings the food back to her dependent cubs and mate. With claws like that ya really don't wanna get on the wrong side of her. That's for sure. I hope Steve tosses snacks at the mated pair. Crikey. This is the biggest Chinese I've ever seen. At a whopping 63 and 210 pounds. This bugger has a nasty habit of eating all his brother's food. Camera pans to my anemic brother. This animal's nipples are the size of small dicks. Blimey. Pics for proof. Username checks out. Because of the general mess of the surroundings, you might be surprised to know that this little fella here actually built or repaired almost all this surprisingly nice furniture in this place. This species is tasteful, yet disorganized. Apostrophe. Oh have a look at this beaut. This magnificent specimen spends way too much time watching The Office. Lol upvote Kazimra watching The Office as I write this. I just got to Dwight's Mussolini speech. Dick move by Michael for not staying. She's a little shy, but we got her. Feed her some sugary breads, and she'll calm right down even with a temper. Now her primary predator is a spider. Once they see her they go right for her. In response she will aggressively scream at it until another of her species comes by to kill it. This one has been known to scream for at least 5 minutes straight even in the middle of the night. As you may have noticed, I caught this one on her own. That's because she screams at spiders while her neighbors and roommates are asleep. Crikey, we got a big one. We've just caught a 220 pounds degenerate weeb from its habitat, known as the bedroom. This fella eats instant noodles and rice only and sleeps with its figurines, Ram and Astolfo body pillows. When it do sleep, that is this kind of weeb with especially what's going on in the world. Can watch 3 seasons in a day and still have time to play games instead of finishing its homework. Welpema, let this beauty go back to its natural habitat. Num, THX Stev. Here we have a wild/u/captain bravados. Once a bravados reaches sexual maturity, it engages in a mating ritual known as making mashups, resulting in Nickelback mixed with Mario Brothers and Vaporwave. YouTube.com/watch v=AIGCXFDVJYU. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.